As you probably know by now, on February 24th, an armed Russian force began invasion attempts on Ukraine. This began at approximately 3 a.m. Universal Standard Time, when Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in a pre-recorded broadcast that he had ordered a special military operation on Ukraine. Minutes later, missiles struck multiple Ukrainian cities, including their Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Over the next few hours after the broadcast, Russian forces were pushed back in cities like Chernihiv and Starobilsk. However, unfortunately, at the time of this recording, there have been 352 deaths and 1,684 injuries announced. President Biden announced in an address that many Russian assets in American banks have been frozen, but Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the next morning that they were, quote, alone in defending their country, end quote, and that, quote, the most powerful forces in the world watched from afar, end quote, presumably referring to America. People are attempting to evacuate Ukraine, but the government has ordered that all healthy men between the ages 18 and 60 stay and fight, while the women, children, and elderly leave. A lot of people are talking about it, the invasion, and a lot of people are posting about it. But we here at AVTF encourage you to do something about it. The best way to do that would be to support charities focused on giving aid to Ukrainians, both people evacuating and people staying in the country. Those are the kind of things that actually make a difference. Have a good day, Broncos.
Racial injustice is a prominent problem in society. Critical race theory, by definition, is the intellectual and social movement of civil rights activists to challenge American approaches to racial injustice. Critical race theory helps us understand how American racism has created antagonistic divides between people of color and white people. Critical race theory brings up the concept that racism is a social construct. It is not only a personal prejudice, but also embedded in our legal systems. Racism still persisted after legal reforms were passed. Scholars on the hunt to find out how to truly abolish racism formulated the concept of CRT. CRT has been credited for aiding the passage to affirmative action. CRT has uncovered many developments by POC that have been discredited by white people. For example, we all know that Thomas Edison created the modern-day light bulb. However, we give this one man sole credit for coming up with an invention that he had help for. Lewis Latimer, a man who worked for the U.S. Electric Lighting Company, came up with the idea for carbon filaments in our modern-day light bulbs. His book, Incandescent Electrical Lighting, went in great detail on this topic. He also worked in close association with Alexander Graham Bell. States like Utah, Texas, and Florida have banned the teaching of CRT in schools.
Critical race theory just says, let's pay attention to what has happened in this country and how what has happened in this country is continuing to create differential outcomes so we can become that country that we say we are.
My name is Eric Rovie. I teach English language arts here at Brookwood, 10th grade gifted, AP literature, AP language. I was a college professor, philosophy courses, and comparative religion courses as well.
My name is Danielle Kaiser, and I teach AP US History and AP Psychology. I
am Coach Gayle, and I teach audio, video, tech, and film levels 1 through 3.
It is not something that we teach in Gwinnett County Public Schools. It doesn't fit our AKS standards. It's not something that's actively a part of our content.
Critical race theory is not a factor in my subject. That is actually a topic that is addressed in graduate level classes. And I also teach AP US History and AP Psychology, so I teach the College Board standards.
Not particularly. Most of our subject deals with sort of the technical applications of, video and film, and we learn about those kind of things. So it's not something that I would be concerned would come up in class from my perspective teaching it.
Critical race theory is really a very sort of specialized thing that's done in law schools. It's really not something that we ever have the need to teach unless we were teaching a legal studies course at the high school level.
And so they mistaken that if you're teaching kind of an inclusive history of all groups, that is critical race theory, but the reality is that it's not. It is a philosophy, once again, that is not appropriate for high school students.
It shouldn't really come up from my perspective in terms of what I'm delivering to them as content knowledge. However, because our class is creative in nature, especially in levels 2 and 3, I could see how sort of topics related to critical race theory might come up from the students and the work that they choose to create.
When we're reading texts, we're looking at text through various lenses and various approaches, whether it be a historical lens or whether it be a feminist lens. And so certainly there are going to be times when the texts that we read discuss race.
I think the content that the students create could, because we do a news show here at Brookwood, and so that news show is exploring kind of current events and relevant topics. And so if one of the students chooses to go down that road using the technical knowledge that I give them, I certainly wouldn't want to discourage it because they're just exploring their creative expression.
I think that a blanket ban on critical race theory that might start to include a blanket ban on teaching certain kinds of texts could limit what we're allowed to teach, and could certainly limit the kinds of books that are out there that students want to read, but might get banned.
It would concern me if those kind of topics were banned, because it would put, I think, teachers of a class like this in an awkward position where they might feel as though they have to discourage students pursuing a topic that interests them, lest they be accused of bringing it into the classroom or teaching it.
Critical race theory is a concept that shouldn't be banned. It should be adjusted and implemented. And we urge everyone to educate themselves on this subject and its importance.
A school shooting is an event in which an individual brings a weapon to a school with the intent to injure or kill. But why? Why do kids kill other kids for their own satisfaction? Why would someone take a life just because they felt like theirs was ruined?
The root cause of these shootings is loneliness, isolation, disconnection, lack of emotional management, and relationship skills.
Generally, it's a slow build. They don't tend to snap as people talk about. Yeah, he was a nice kid, I guess he just snapped. But people don't just wake up one day and decide to become a mass murderer. Usually people are just wanting to get back at people who hurt them. Why? Well, because it's easy. People are motivated to seek revenge, to harm someone who has harmed them when they feel attacked, mistreated, or socially rejected. Getting an eye for an eye, as some would say, is thought to bring a sense of closure or relief. And some people are literally just psychotic. But some people genuinely have a mental disorder where they feel disconnected from their reality.
There are things that we can do. We need to change the narrative. We need to focus on getting these essential life skills into schools as a priority. We can reduce and prevent these school shootings, but we are going to have to take responsibility to do this, and it is a call to action.
Don't value life, and they just have given up. Low self-esteem stems from unresolved past experiences and emotions. Instead of a thought, it's a belief. Those past experiences led to negative beliefs about the world. And if there was one emotion that drives low self-worth, it's shame. But life is valuable because we can feel what others feel. We can imagine the experiences of others, and we instinctively want that experience to be good.
I just want everyone to know that and realize that we've had 350 school shootings since the tragedy at Sandy Hook. So within the last 9 years, we've had 28 school shootings this year alone.
It's also important to note that most school shooters in the past have been men more so than women. Since 1982, an astonishing 120 mass shootings have been carried out in the United States by male shooters. In contrast, only 3 mass shootings have been carried out by women. There's no single explanation for why women are rarely responsible for active shootings, because there's no single profile of a mass shooter.
In the first Cleveland elementary school shooting, committed by the first ever female school shooter, Brenda Spencer.
There are many signs that you can look out for to prevent a school shooting. For example, if there is a sudden withdrawing from friends, family, and activities, or that includes online or social media. Or you may notice someone is getting bullied, especially if targeted towards difference in races, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. Or it could be even as obvious as them bragging about access to a gun or a weapon, or even directly expressing a threat as a plan. And if you hear someone talking like this, then you shouldn't take the threat lightly.
Did you have any idea whether this was a drill or this was real? And
we had some students thought it was a drill. That's why we didn't take it as serious. I did, but I didn't know what it was. And at first I thought it was a prank because it was Valentine's Day, and I thought it was a paintball gun because I saw red on the floor, but it was blood and it wasn't a prank.
But also, just because someone is showing these signs doesn't necessarily mean that they have the intent to hurt someone. But we need more people looking out, more people checking their instincts for what might be going wrong, and then acting on those instincts to try to prevent this. And there is very good evidence that the more monitoring that you have on an environment, the safer it is.
These are called essential life skills. We're not born with them. We have to learn them, and we learn them at home, but they absolutely have to be reinforced and practiced at schools. And we know that schools that prioritize practicing these essential life skills are the safest.